Hello and welcome to the channel. It just seems like yesterday that I shot, edited, and posted a video on Tesla's full self-driving update version 12.3.2.1. Well, actually because it was yesterday, and here we are one day later with a brand new update, so I was anxious to take it out and see how it performs. I did have to take the Model X instead of my usual test video, which is in my Model S, because we're currently having a party for the holidays and all of the vehicles are blocked in, and this is the only one that I could get out. So I don't imagine it's going to operate significantly differently. However, I will definitely take the Model S out also on the same test routes and also take it out during the daylight hours. I did get this update rather late in the evening, so I don't usually take my test runs at night, so it'll be interesting to see if there's really any differences in performance, but I will absolutely film a video during the day with my normal test vehicle if there are any wild differences to see if both of them operate the same. So first stop sign of the route, looks good. Here was a problem in my last couple runs where it would just pull too far out into the road, and this is much better. It looks like it's pulling out. It's a little bit far to the left, but I don't think it would cause any issues with opposing traffic, nor would it cause them to be frustrated with me that it pulled out like it did with the update yesterday where it was halfway into the road when it stopped. So that looks like it has been fixed. And also, if you watched my last video, I had an issue where I got a strike for not paying attention whenever I was checking cross traffic because it thought I was looking maybe at a phone or something. I have my camera mounted right next to me, and it may have thought I was looking at the phone, which caused it to give me a strike after several warnings. So I mounted my camera in the same place to see if that happens again. Since I just posted a video yesterday and it was relatively long, I'm going to try to just post all of the places that I've had issues in the past and the new issues that came up to see if it repeats them. And if anyone's interested, I might just put up the full drive in a separate video, uncut. But some of these can be kind of long, and so as to respect everyone's time, especially since some folks who have been watching the videos for a while now, they are looking to see if any of the problem places have been fixed or how it's reacting now. So I will edit everything together where it's just those particular spots so that you can quickly take a glance and see how it has improved and if anything has taken a step back. So first intersection with an obstruction to the right. So it normally stops here, which is fine. And then it's going to pull up, I hope slowly enough that it can see cross traffic, and I'm pretty clear both ways. It's hesitating a little more. Nope. So getting yelled at. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that me checking cross traffic with my camera mounted where it's mounted is not going to work. So, but I will, however, mount this at the beginning of all future updated drives. And a little bit of uncertainty, and it does pick the incorrect lane again, which it did on the last drive. And it needs to be in the right-hand lane up ahead here pretty quickly. The very first version 12 update got into the incorrect lane after some hesitation and indecisiveness, and ultimately just pulled into the right lane without signaling. The last update did signal, so we'll see if that continues with this update. And it does. It does signal to get in the lane. All of version 11 would correctly pick the right lane so that it wouldn't have to worry about there being a lot of traffic and then it having a very short distance to get into the right lane. Not sure if I'm going to be seeing that behavior going forward, or if if and when it's going to change and go back to selecting the lane that will have the easiest time proceeding with and not having to worry about having to fight traffic to get into the correct lane because it picked the wrong one initially. So we're going to see if it rides this up, and it finally signals. Oh my goodness. So for the longest time, it would ride this all the way out to the merge point and then pull in, and it finally signaled to merge onto the highway at the seemed like the exact same time that it switched stacks back to the highway stack. Going to be getting off the exit here in just a moment. I did not get to test this on my last drive since I did end up getting a strike for looking around and checking my surroundings when I thought I was looking at the camera. This got off the exit just fine. It most of the time takes this a little slow, which it's still doing now. Although I would imagine this is probably the appropriate speed for this ramp, but most folks don't go a little bit faster and then up. I was trying to look to the left to see if there's anything coming. This intersection, full self-driving kind of freaks out every now and again, and there's a guardrail to the left that makes it very difficult to see oncoming traffic. It's pulling out very cautiously, and it's always been extra cautious here because visibility is so poor. It did hesitate a lot, but it did a much better job actually making the turn. Here is my famous right that for every version of 11, at about this point right here, it would just pull off over the line into the water and into the dirt to make the turn. And ever since version 12, it has been doing it absolutely perfectly. So I'm glad to see that that behavior continues, and I hope that that never becomes a regression. It's got to cross over 2 lanes here. This has been a problem for version 11 in the past also, where it tries to do both at the same time and ends up just kind of bugging out in the middle of the road. And it made each lane change very smoothly, and couldn't have asked for anything better there. So perfect. If nothing else, I can definitely see why Tesla is so confident about this build to give out free trials of it. It has been almost entirely perfect for me, and even when it wasn't perfect per se, it didn't make any mistakes in which I felt like I needed to disengage. So for the most part, most of my drives have 0 disengagements now. So far, everything has been super smooth. Oh, gonna hit the curb there. So first disengagement, that didn't happen on 12.3.2.1, so that one's new, at least new to this vehicle. So first disengagement there, not great. Don't know if it just didn't see that curb, or I may try to run that again just to see if that was a fluke, or, I mean, really there shouldn't be any flukes, but here comes attempt 2. Just to see if that was a fluke or not. Turning in, and nope, it's gonna hit that barrier. So that wasn't an issue yesterday in the Model S. So definitely have to make this run with the S to see if this is unique to the X or not. So I'm approaching the road that it made the incorrect lane choice yesterday and ended up in a turn-only lane. I did disengage, and there were a couple comments asking if I would have let it go what I thought it would have done, but there was way too much traffic and there was someone approaching rapidly on the right, and I was afraid that the vehicle was going to make a sudden move. So I did disengage. I will, this time, since there's very little traffic, I will this time, if it does make the same mistake, let it go to see if it corrects itself or if it just takes an alternate route, realizing that it's in a turn-only lane, or if it's just going to go straight and completely ignore the fact that it's in a turn-only lane. Still no vehicles behind me. So at this point now, this is the lane that it should stay in order to continue on going straight. And for whatever reason, it wanted to make a turn into the turn-only lane. Does not seem like it's going to do it here. So that looks like it has been fixed. So this is exactly what it needed to do. I'll run through this another time or two to see if that was just a fluke or if it's going to act differently each time. Okay, attempt 2. Now, it did, interestingly, pick the leftmost lane this time. In neither time I've made this trip so far were there any vehicles in our path, so it just seems like it just picked this lane to be in. So that is going to be interesting here. Up, and it was going to go to the rightmost lane and it decided not to. A little bit odd, but okay. And then we are now in the lane that we shouldn't be in, and it's going to need to signal to get out of it in order to proceed going straight. So far, no signal. And if this were a busy time, it would really be stuck at this point, having no ability to get over. Okay, so here we go, forward, up, and it did signal to get over, so it did finally realize it. So I would be pretty confident in saying that that aspect is fixed. So currently all I have to really worry about is curbs and medians. Okay, I think I timed this right to make sure that I get the light. It's confused. I might have just started it in a weird place. Well, I don't know what it's doing. I don't think it knows what it's doing. All right, pulling up to the light now. And it's going to turn. I was hoping that it would give me a chance to see if it'll turn on red or not, but that didn't go exactly to plan. So I'll have to loop around and try to do it again to see if I can get that light to stick a little longer. Going to try from the top of the hill now to try to avoid that odd confusion situation that it was in earlier. Although I feel like it should always be looking, so I'm not really sure why where I engaged it had any confusion with, but it definitely stalled as if it had no idea what to do when I first engaged it when I was pulling out of that parking lot. So hopefully there's a little bit of traffic coming the opposite way this time, just so that it doesn't try to turn green right away. And it's going to stop, and then if it starts to pull before it turns green, I'll know that it's... Oh, that was a tough one. I feel like I'm going to have to run this test on a different day just because there's not enough traffic to keep that light red long enough for me to see if it's going to try to creep out and go. So there aren't a whole lot of places around me where there is parallel parking, where the spaces are clearly marked with lines. Most of the places around here, folks just kind of park. So there is a small stretch of road right up here that does have clearly defined lines. So it'll give me an opportunity to see if the vehicle recognizes those lines and gives me the option to park. All right, so nice and clear behind me, so I'll have a good chance to slow down. And, oh, and it does. So, Oh, it's going to drive on its own now. Interesting. I thought I was tapping to park, but instead it decided to go into full self-drive. So let me end the full self-driving trip and put on my blinkers. And it doesn't seem to want to park. Oh, there we go. So it has to turn blue first. Perfect, I think. Let me take a quick peek and see how close we are to the curb. So there's a solid foot, I would say. So not super close, although it did do a good job of getting in between the lines. No problem. It's really just, I mean, I guess better safe than sorry, having about a foot of space between the curb and my tires so that it doesn't give you a bad, nasty case of curb rash. I myself would have parked a little bit closer or try to tuck in a little bit closer because I hate when my right side sticks out into the road a little bit, but overall that was pretty good. So if you are going to parallel park, just make sure that whenever you slow down enough, make sure that the Autopark is highlighted in blue by scrolling and selecting. Otherwise, all it's going to do is just throw you into full self-drive again if you have single click enabled. If you're on a stockless vehicle, I guess I should also add. So pulling onto the right side of the road now. It's not correcting itself, just kind of pulling up. Okay, and it looks like it also left about a foot or so space on the right side as well. Yep, about a solid foot, although it's definitely within the lines, even if it's just barely. Now approaching the stop sign that has the sign that is attached that you do not have to stop if you make a right turn there. So I did have a difficult time telling what it was going to do at the no turn on red sign, although this one should be much more clear cut. Turn signal on, slowing down, and nope, it's going to stop. So we'll go ahead and give it a little bit of acceleration to get through it. So I'm going to guess that if the light on the no turn on red sign didn't turn green so quickly each time I went through, that it would have also started to creep forward and eventually would have went, even though it is not legal to do so. And finally, the famous fork in the road is coming up here, and not really quite sure what to expect here. If it completes it, then everything would have been fixed with the exception of the no turn on or it's okay to turn addendum signs and that odd issue where it either didn't see the curb or maybe because it was nighttime, don't know, but the new behavior of it running over that median. So approaching the fork in the road very quickly. Nope. So almost everything was fixed from my last drive. Everything except the fork in the road, essentially. And of course, the no turn on red. So again, going back to the old mixed bag talk as I go up the hill here, but everything was so flawless, and version 12 has been incredible all throughout. Now it just seems like little things here and there that just need to be addressed. Most of the things I had problems with on yesterday's drive are now solved, specifically pulling out too far for the stop sign on the way down the hill and picking the incorrect lanes. So all of that was fixed. That fork in the road has not yet been fixed. I really can't wait for the day. I don't know how excited I'm going to be when it finally does get fixed. And I had a chance to try out the vision-only parallel parking, which was really exciting. And it works pretty darn well. Again, I didn't use any other vehicles around, but that's my real-world case because I just really don't park near anyone else under, if I can help it. I will park in the furthest space on the lot where no one else is. Inevitably, as I'm sure all of you know, someone may park next to you when you come out of wherever you're at, and you just can't believe it because you're in a parking lot with no one else in it. But it did a pretty good job. It was a little conservative because it stayed about a foot away from the curb where I would have tucked in a little closer, but I don't blame it. The first instance where it gets way too close or it's going to cause some curb rash, that's going to cause people to stop using it entirely. So hopefully this was informative and helpful, and I know that I learned a lot, especially when it comes to how the Autopark works when you're on an actual road and you have to make sure it's highlighted first with the scroll wheel. So if nothing else, that was a useful little bit of information that I didn't know before. Other than that, I'll keep looking forward to version 12 updates, and hopefully one of these days that fork in the road will get fixed. Thanks for stopping by the channel, and thanks for watching.
I didn't have to sing about